What if I told you that the entire global economy, every dollar in your wallet, every transaction you've ever made, every mortgage, every paycheck, is built on something that doesn't actually exist? In 1971, something happened that changed money forever. A decision was made in secret. No vote, no announcement, just a Sunday night television broadcast that severed the last thread connecting our currency to reality. Since then, over $100 trillion has been created out of thin air, and you've been paying for it your entire life. This is the story of the greatest financial illusion in human history, and why it's starting to unravel. For thousands of years, money was simple. It was gold. It was silver. It was something you could hold, something scarce, something real. When ancient merchants traded across continents, they didn't trust promises. They trusted weight. A gold coin in Rome had the same value as a gold coin in China because gold was gold. But then came paper. At first, paper money was just a receipt, a promise that you could exchange it for real gold sitting in a vault somewhere. The paper itself was worthless. The gold made it real. This system, where paper money is backed by gold, is called the gold standard. And for most of modern history, that's how the world worked. The United States went fully onto the gold standard in 1900. Every dollar could be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold. The government couldn't just print unlimited money because they needed gold to back it up. There was a limit, a tether to reality, but limits are inconvenient when you're trying to run an empire. Here's how it worked under the gold standard. Imagine a bank vault with 100 gold bars. The government prints 100 paper bills, each representing 1 bar. You hold a bill, you can claim your gold. Simple. But what happens when the government wants to print 200 bills? They can't, unless they have 200 gold bars. The gold supply limits the money supply. It's a natural brake on inflation and government spending. After World War II, America held most of the world's gold. Other countries agreed to use dollars instead of gold, because they could always exchange those dollars for gold at $35 per ounce. The dollar became as good as gold. This was the Bretton Woods System. The dollar was backed by gold, and every other major currency was backed by the dollar. It became the foundation of the post-war economic order. But there was a problem. The U.S. government was spending more than it had. The Vietnam War, the space race, social programs. They were printing more dollars than they had gold to back them up. And the world noticed. By 1971, foreign governments were getting nervous. France, in particular, started demanding actual gold in exchange for their dollars. They could see the math didn't add up. The U.S. had promised to exchange dollars for gold at $35 per ounce, but they'd printed so many dollars that if everyone came to collect, the vault would be empty. It was a bank run, but on a global scale. President Richard Nixon faced an impossible choice: honor the promise and watch America's gold reserves vanish, or break the promise and face international humiliation. On August 15th, 1971, on a Sunday evening when markets were closed, Nixon went on television. He announced that the United States would temporarily suspend the conversion of dollars into gold. Temporary. That was 54 years ago. The suspension never ended. The dollar would no longer be backed by gold. And since every other currency was backed by the dollar, that meant nothing was backed by anything real anymore. This moment, this single decision, changed everything. Money stopped being a claim on something real and became a promise from the government. A promise that could be broken at will. So what happened next? For the first time in history, governments could create as much money as they wanted with no physical constraint. just keystrokes on a computer, digital entries in a ledger. And they did. Before 1971, the total U.S. money supply was measured in billions. Today, it's over 21 trillion. The global money supply, over 100 trillion. This isn't wealth creation, it's monetary expansion. More dollars chasing the same goods. And when you increase the supply of something, its value drops. Let's look at purchasing power. In 1971, the median home price in America was $25,000. Today, it's over $400,000. Did houses become 16 times better? No, the dollar became 16 times weaker. A new car in 1971, $3,500. Today, $48,000. College tuition in 1971, $1,400 per year. Today, $30,000. The same pattern everywhere. It's not that things got more expensive, it's that the dollar got cheaper. This is inflation, but it's not natural, it's engineered. When governments print money, they get to spend it first on wars, bailouts, programs. By the time it reaches you, prices have already risen. You work the same hours, but your paycheck buys less. It's a hidden tax, a slow, relentless erosion of your purchasing power. But it gets worse. Because money is no longer scarce, governments can borrow endlessly. The U.S. national debt was $400 billion in 1971. Today, $36 trillion. How do they pay it back? They don't. They just print more money, which devalues the debt and your savings. And this isn't just an American problem. When the dollar disconnected from gold, every currency followed. The euro, the yen, the pound, all fiat currencies, money backed by nothing but government decree. Fiat comes from Latin. Let it be done. It exists because they say it does. The entire global financial system became an experiment in trust. Trust that governments won't print too much. Trust that central banks will act responsibly. Trust that this time will be different. But history shows us what happens when trust breaks. The Roman Empire debased its currency and collapsed. Weimar Germany printed money and got hyperinflation. Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina. Every fiat currency experiment eventually fails. And now, cracks are appearing again. Since 2020, the money supply has exploded. Central banks printed trillions to fight COVID, to bail out banks, to fund deficits. The consequences: inflation is back. Prices are soaring. People can't afford homes, groceries, basic life. And the solution offered: print more money, lower interest rates, inflate the bubble even bigger. We're living in the endgame of the 1971 decision, a world where money is debt, where savings are punished, where the gap between rich and poor grows wider because those closest to the money printer benefit first. The wealthy own assets, stocks, real estate, businesses. When money is printed, asset prices inflate. Their wealth grows. The working class owns labor. When money is printed, their wages lag behind prices. Their wealth shrinks. This is the $100 trillion LI. That money can be created from nothing without consequence. That we can borrow from the future forever. That the laws of economics don't apply anymore. But reality always catches up. So what can you do? First, understand the game. Money today is not a store of value. It's a melting ice cube. Holding cash long-term means losing purchasing power. That's why the wealthy invest in assets, real estate, stocks, gold, Bitcoin, things that can't be printed. Second, recognize that this system benefits those who understand it and exploits those who don't. Financial literacy isn't optional anymore. It's survival. And third, ask yourself, what happens when trust finally breaks? Because the $100 trillion isn't real. It's a collective hallucination, and the moment we stop believing, the entire system collapses. We're not there yet, but we're closer than most people think. The foundation of our economy is a lie, and one day, lies always come to light. So here's my question for you. If you knew the dollar would lose half its value in the next decade, what would you do differently today? Drop your answer in the comments. Are you preparing or pretending everything's fine?